How's it going, guys? Tank Commander here. Today I'm going to be going over stuff I wish I knew before I started Airsoft, just to hopefully help you avoid mistakes if you're getting into Airsoft. So let's get started. So, first thing I learned, you don't have to buy a ultra expensive gun. In fact, don't buy an ultra expensive gun because I would personally recommend going to a field first, if you have one in your area, and playing an airsoft game before you buy a gun. And then before you buy your gun, don't buy something crazy expensive. Like, let me think of an example. You don't need to buy something crazy expensive. Just get something nice, not particularly cheap though. Don't cheap out. Now just remember that someone with a gun, a cheap Springer that's been playing Airsoft for, say, 5 years will beat someone who's been playing Airsoft for 2 months with a gun that costs $3,000. So, the skill level is more important than your equipment or your guns. But, still, don't go buy a crazy expensive gun because you probably don't need it. And that's just my tip. I just don't recommend buying a crazy expensive gun. Buy something nice, and not crazy expensive, like this SSR4 here from Novridge. This is the Gen 1, but I've got a Gen 2 motor in there. But you don't need to buy something crazy expensive. You don't need to buy something crazy expensive. That's all I have to say. Just buy something not particularly cheap. Just don't buy something crazy expensive. Okay, next. Yes. Okay. Second thing I learned. You don't need to deck out your guns like crazy. You don't need to have lights, flashlights. You don't need to have lasers, flashlights, like a red dot, a magnifier, grips. Really, all you need is something to aim with, and then I like to add a grip. But you don't need tons of stuff on your guns. Let me show you. Like this, I just showed you this. This is my SR4. All I have here is red dot. That's all I need. I don't need a grip here. I don't need a suppressor. Suppressor can be nice. That's something I will usually run. All I need is a red dot. You don't need to deck out your gun completely. That's something that I learned. Like for my first gun, I decked it out a whole bunch, and that wasn't necessary. Get the gun first. Get a red dot if it's an AR or even iron sights, but I recommend a red dot. Play with it for a while, and then imagine what you could be useful. If you play a dark field, well then you might want to get a flashlight at some point. If you play at, I recommend, if you play at a long range field, you might want to get a scope at some point. But I don't recommend completely decking out your guns as soon as you buy them. Start with a red dot. Only red dot. Okay. Next tip I learned. Start with an AEG. And I just recommend it, mainly because it's easier and better for beginners. So that right here, AEG, this is an AEG. Start with something like this. Don't start with, hold on. Don't start with something like this. This is an XSX 303. Don't start something like this. You're not gonna I personally like this style better. I think it's more fun. But don't start with a gun like this. Start with an AEG, and then, if you decide you want something maybe a little quieter, which this will have advantage over the SR4, but if you decide you want something that is just longer range, then get something like this. But don't get an AEG. Don't get this to start. Get something like an AEG. That's kind of always. I bought this because it's just my style. But don't start with something like this. Start with an AEG. That's my recommendation. Just start with an AEG. That's my recommendation. Okay. Second tip I learned. One of the bigger mistakes I made was, and something I kind of sometimes wish I could take back. So here, let me show you. this right here, this is my, you can see I had a little trouble fitting it into the frame. This is my Novridge SSG 96 Mark II. Ignore the ridiculous looking scope on it right now. This thing, it shoots beautifully. It's deadly accurate. Very nice hop-up unit. Nice smooth bolt pull. This is a great gun. But I just found myself not liking it. The recommendation is don't buy a sniper. A lot of people will. I didn't make this mistake, luckily. But there are people that will just, the first gun they buy a cheap sniper because they're usually cheaper. They just buy a sniper, and then they just buy a sniper, and then they just buy a sniper, and it's not as fun. And then they quit the sport because they're not having fun because they keep getting shot, and they're just not having as fun. Don't buy a sniper. Just buy an AG. Don't buy a sniper for a first gun. It's not. You might think it's, you see the problem is you see a lot of YouTube videos of people running around with snipers like these, and they get amazing kills, and you think, oh, I can do that. That's one of the same things that I did, because when I bought this became my new primary for a while, and I almost immediately switched back to an AG, or actually my S603, but just don't start with a sniper. That's my recommendation. You'll regret it if you start with a sniper, especially something as expensive as this. Start with an AG, or maybe even a gas pullback rifle, not a sniper. Trust me. If you play Airsoft, my recommendation is you play Airsoft for a while with something like an AG, or maybe an S603 if you don't mind that playstyle. Just a little bit slower, a little more quiet. And if you discover you like moving around slowly and getting longer range hits, because this can get those long range hits. I've gotten some pretty good hits with this thing, but it's just not as fun as in my opinion. So my recommendation is just don't start with a sniper, but you do. I know you probably won't care what I say, but I recommend not starting with a sniper. Another tip I learned. So when I first started Airsoft, I was the guy that sat way back behind with my sniper. I sat way back behind with my sniper, and I waited for people to come to me, and then I would shoot them. My recommendation is to get out there, run around. Actually, because it's not as fun. Like, if you're sitting around, it's just not as fun as a sport. I recommend getting out there, running around, and getting hits. You're going to get more kills, for one thing. You're going to get more kills. And it's just going to be more enjoyable. It's more fun. And it's just my recommendation is just not to sit back and wait for people to come to you. And I'm not saying like you can do that, but I'm just saying it's a lot more fun if you're out there running around getting kills. It's like respawning isn't the worst thing ever, but it doesn't take that long to respawn. For most fields, or at least where I play, it doesn't take that long to respawn, and I recommend you don't sit back and wait for people to come to you. I recommend you get out there and go. Okay, next tip I learned. This is a tip that will cost you a tiny bit, but not much. So this right here is a Novridge maintenance kit. So I had a problem back when I started Airsoft, and that was I had a gun. Let's just say this one, for example. It's probably I think it was my 603 or my sniper, I don't remember. But it just, like, I bought it, it was shooting accurately, and then I noticed it stopped shooting accurately, and I got annoyed because I'm like, why is it not shooting accurately? Because, like, it was a decently expensive gun, like, it wasn't particularly cheap. I'm just annoyed because I'm like, I'm shooting it, and I'm like, why can't I get it to shoot accurately? And it was annoying. I tried just in the hop-up. I thought the hop-up was a problem, and it wasn't. I figured out that you just need to clean the barrel. Like, I recommend buying an Novridge maintenance kit. This is the best way to do it. This is just a recommendation. And cleaning your barrel, because I went a while and I was all sad because I was like, why I can't get my gun to shoot accurately, and I was just all sad because it's just like it won't shoot accurately, and I couldn't figure out why. And I learned that you just need to clean the barrel, and that's just clean the barrel and your gun will shoot accurately again. And that's just my tip. Oh, another tip I learned. So, this right here is just an average TP22. I learned that you don't need a backup. So, if you're running a sniper, which you will know if you didn't pass forward, that I said that a sniper is not a good gun to start out with. So if you do start out with sniper, you're gonna need a backup. There's no arguing about it. You need a backup. But if you're running a gun like an SSR4, if you're running an AR, or you're running something that's just a little bit more, if you're running something semi-auto or full auto, or both, or obviously both, but if you're running semi-auto or full auto, you don't need a backup. Backups are just an extra bit of weight that you don't need. You just don't need this. You don't need this if you're running a gun that's got full auto or semi-auto capabilities, because instead, what'll happen is, I did this somewhat, you buy the gun, you buy the pistol, keep it on your side the entire game, and you never pull it out. Not once do you ever pull it out, except for when you're sniping. But when I snipe, I pull my pistol out quite often. But if you're not running a sniper, this will just sit in your holster the entire game, and it'll probably never come out unless you run out of ammo, which I don't usually run out of ammo. So, just don't buy a pistol. Or do buy a pistol if you're running a sniper, but I don't recommend running a sniper, and I don't recommend buying a pistol if you have a gun that's semi-automatic. It's got a good trigger. Just don't buy this. This is an extra waste of money. And speaking of that, another tip I learned: don't buy a cheap primary just so you can buy a pistol to go with it. Put all the money into your primary, and then maybe if you really want a pistol, then that's when you get a pistol. But I don't recommend it. Don't buy a pistol. If your gun, most likely if you have an AR or something, you're not going to need a pistol. It's just going to sit in your holster, and it's going to be a waste of money, for one thing, and it's going to be add weight, which is just annoying. Okay, next tip I learned. This is something that I'm not sure will happen to you, but it happened to me. So, magazines. So what I did for my first airsoft gun, is I bought one extra mag, and I thought to myself, I'm not gonna run out of ammo that fast. But that's not true. I ran out of ammo fast, and I regretted it. Don't cheap out. See, I'm not saying put a good amount of money on your put a good amount of money into your primary, but always buy enough mags. For an SR4, I probably would run 2 extra at least, probably 3 extra, for an AR if they hold the standard amount of ammo. But I just recommend, don't cheap out. Decide, hey, I can do with just one magazine. I did that. Don't do that. You cannot do with just one extra magazine. You run out of ammo, and then you have to carry a speed loader, which I guess ain't too bad carrying speed loader. I carry speed loader in my loadout, but then it rattles, and that's annoying, and I just don't like that. So I try not to carry speed loader, but there's a few guns I have that don't have enough mags, so they kind of need a speed loader. I need to stock up on some mags. I had a few break. But don't buy just one extra mag. That won't do you. That's something I did because I was trying to save money. Buy at least 3 extra mags. That's all the tips I have for you today. Thanks for watching this not particularly short video. But this is Tank Commander, and I will be signing off until next Saturday.